Wagwan, it's your boy Hype to the D-A-R-D. Oh, that is my name, and this is the real edits, and welcome to another video where we are going to review and react to some news that has happened since yesterday. So me, I was minding my business. I was minding my business, and then I just woke up, and this is what I wake up to, that United States decided to invade Venezuela and decided to capture their president and extradite him from the country and bring him to the US. Which is very shocking. Some people in the US are saying finally it has been done. Some are happy, some are not happy. So people from Venezuela, some are happy. I can see some in social media are celebrating that he has been captured. So I don't know what type of a guy he was, right? But what is shocking me even, I don't want to know what... Okay, it's not that I don't want to know, but I'd like to know why they even went to that extent of capturing him. But like the ile point yenye iliwafanya to an extent that they need to capture him. Okay, since I've been doing some small research even before I started doing this video, according to the US, the guy is a drug lord, right? He has been even here there is a warrant for his arrest in the US and all that. And also they portray him as a dictator, right? So he's a dictator, which is interesting. But what shocks me is we have a lot of dictators in this world. There are so many here in Africa and all that. So, and who are doing shoddy business left, right, and center. And I'm pretty sure this US, the so-called US, they say that, I know they know because they have spies everywhere and everything. So I know they know. But what shocks me so much is that they can go to a country and take a president, right, and capture him. On what grounds? Like, on what grounds? Because at the end of the day, I believe there should be like... I believe that's why the UN is there. That's why the international court is there, right? ICC and all that. So I don't know if these countries are under ICC, but even if they are not, but I believe there are some laws and regulations for you to take such measures and go and capture a president. So me mpaka sahi sielewi why they had to go and invade a country and take the president. Because if it is about him being a drug lord, then first provide evidence, right? Because up to now it is said he is, like, and it is alleged, like, he's a drug lord. There is no like 100% proof. But pia, if you go ndani, if you go inside, with all this, there is also the issue of oil, right? So US says that the oil there is being misused. So wanasema ati oil iko misused, and we have so many countries misusing oil. So I don't get why it's only Venezuela that... So kulingana na history, according to history, if you go inside the according to history, you'll see that this guy, US is buying oil from them. So it seems US does not want to buy oil from there. But let's before even we talk too much, nataka tunge tu kwa news nini moja and see what happened, right? So I think you're going to first point here. We are going to watch this one and see what happened.
This is the most dramatic military strike of Trump's second term. Within hours, US forces attacked a wide range of targets, from key military sites to air bases to even the country's main port.
So why did they have to go through all that so to just capture one person? Like why? Like, it doesn't make sense to me, Mbakasai. It really doesn't make sense to me. Like, why they had to bomb so many places that are key for the country so that you can capture one person who you say he's a drug lord, right? Why couldn't they? It doesn't make sense, man. It really doesn't make sense at all.
Capital Caracas looked like a war zone. There was fire and smoke in the sky and chaos on.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure some nini will exaggerate. Some news outlets najua exaggerate mbaya sana, but at the end of the day we need to know rada ni gani.
The streets, and Venezuelans captured all of it from their rooftops and their balconies. Here is how the US forces captured Venezuelan President Maduro.
It was loud.
Yo, damn.
Scary. And unprecedented.
Yeah, it is unprecedented because I don't get how someone can invade a country and nothing be done to him. Like, that's crazy. And Trump unajua is one very interesting guy. This guy the other day just bombed I think they bombed Nigeria because of the so-called ISIS affiliated nini from there. So like jamaa kule akona nini nakaje that he can do that, you know, that he can do that, because if he can do this and he can do that, then that means powerful countries can decide, okay, leo tunajisikia kuchukua inchi fulani, so why don't we go and just put some charges on some nini president and say, okay, who president wenu ni hivi and take the country, because this is very serious, man.
The U.S. struck Venezuela with full force. Caracas lit up like a battlefield. Its skyline shrouded in smoke and fire.
Ay, no.
And its people stunned.
Mira eso.
Eyewitnesses saw the American operation unfold before their very eyes.
I live here in Chacao, and approximately an hour and a half ago, we felt planes flying and explosions. Several explosions, at least 8 or 10. And now I went out to look around. Now all you see is smoke, smelling like creolin.
One of the casualties was Port of La Guaira. This is Venezuela's main maritime gateway, just north of Caracas.
So why bomb a port if you're going to arrest any? Because the port is important for the people of the Venezuelan country. So me mpaka saisi elewe he had to take. So like, this is crazy, man. Something has to be done, because if a president can feel this way, then it trickle down to other people doing it, right? If you're not impressed by someone, then you're going to do that, you know, and which is very sad to see.
These pictures were captured by an eyewitness moments after the U.S. airstrike hit. More footage emerged within minutes. Explosions ripped through an airbase too, right inside Caracas. Experts were quick to confirm the U.S. didn't even spare military installations. And this was not any remote outpost. This was the heart of the capital, and it was under attack. It was a story too big for Venezuelan state television to ignore. They began broadcasting an official statement. It confirmed explosions had rocked Caracas and 3 other states, Miranda, Aragua, and La Guaira.
Yo, this is crazy. This is not a capture. This one is just trying to destabilize a country so that maybe you can take control of it. But it's not like, you're not rescuing the country by doing this. This is not rescuing a country. And that's what US did to these other countries, that like Iraq, like Afghanistan, right? This is what US did. They sent troops to those countries saying that they are going to stabilize the countries, and they end up being the ones destabilizing the countries, you know. And yeah, you see, sasa this is stupidity, man. This is stupidity from president of the US. I don't know if are the US people supporting such behaviors from their I don't know. How are the US people feeling? You'll tell me in the comments there. The US people need to tell you need to tell us from the comments, how is the ground receiving this, right? Because this is very interesting, you know.
It called the U.S. strikes military aggression.
Today, more than ever, President Nicolás Maduro is loyal to the Constitution to protect his people. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela rejects, condemns, and denounces before the international community the grave military aggression perpetrated by the current government of the United States of America.
President Nicolás Maduro had.
Even I have one question. What right do they have to invade a country and arrest them? What right do they have to do that? I believe there are international laws that should be followed if someone is believed to be such, it's if someone is believed to be a bad person. Okay, if a country feels that this president, then you must bring up your evidence to somewhere you must take the evidence and all that, and then after you take the evidence, then from there he can be summoned and all that, so that he can ajibu mashtaka zake. But you just don't go into a country because you decided to imply that someone is a drug lord, and I'm pretty sure you don't have any evidence, right? You don't have any evidence about him being a drug lord. You're just saying it because drugs are coming from your place and they are going to your country. But now that you want to blame the and funny thing, these drugs also, if they are coming into the country, then even the state officials are involved. You need them to investigate the state. How are they entering the country if state officials are not allowing the drugs to enter the country? Because at the end of the day, everybody is eating. Even from the side of the US, everybody is eating from this. So unless they had proof that he was, which they could have forwarded somewhere to in an international setting, and then from that, then this guy don't arrest you and all that. But you just don't invade a country, mwende mubomb a country, because muna feel tu ati junyi sasa ni superpower, you can do whatever you want. This is very sad.
Had declared a national emergency. He called on his allies to mobilize. Across the capital, residents were already awake. Some stood on rooftops, others filmed from balconies. Venezuela's interior minister took to the streets. Diosdado Cabello is one of Maduro's top allies. Flanked by soldiers, he gave a statement. His message was clear: remain calm. He urged the public not to panic and trust the leadership of Maduro.
After evaluating the damages caused by the criminal and terrorist attack against our people, our patriotic ground, electric facilities, the Bolivarian Revolution, and even those who aren't related to the Bolivarian Revolution, it's an attack against Venezuela, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. In the end, after these attacks, we will win. Long live the homeland.
This is very sad because Israel did the same thing to Gaza, but since they have done that, nothing has been done by the US about that. And funny thing, they are the ones supporting it, which is very sad. So Russia did the same thing to Ukraine, but now they don't care about Russia, right? So at the end of the day, like, what is right and what is wrong, or who is right and who is wrong? At the end of the day, I believe Trump should have not taken those measures, because that one is just a coward move at the end of the day. Because if you believe in so-called democracy, which you try and all the time say that you believe in and all that you're putting America first. At the end of the day, you put America first by not trying to destabilize other countries, right? That's true leadership. But what he's doing, that's outright crazy. Hiyo ni kama mjamaa amechizi.
By then, it was already too late. Within
And the ninja posted it in Twitter that the president of Nini has been with the wife actually.
hours, President Donald Trump confirmed it. Nicolás Maduro and his wife had been captured. They were taken out of the country. The operation was swift, executed in a matter of hours, but its impact may last far longer, with the potential to reshape the region.
The world doesn't fit in boxes, so why should your news?
Yo, this is super sad, man. This is super sad to see from all this. I don't really understand how can someone do that? Like, you know, how like I don't really understand. Me mpaka sahi sielewi. Like, how can one go to those extents? You know. So let's see. CNN say that the ninja has arrived in.
One of the big concerns you can tell from just the way the police have been acting here today with the arrival of the SWAT teams and so on was to make sure that they could get him in here safely, securely, and they appear to have done that at this point, Caitlin. He is now inside the Metropolitan Detention Center here in Brooklyn, and he begins the process being held in custody until he awaits trial. Of course, we expect that he might be in court for him.
So you want to tell me that US can be the jury, and the executioner, right? It can be the one to arrest the jury, and so it can decide to say that a country is that their president is a drug lord and all that, you know, and then now they can be the jury and the executioner, right? So it doesn't make sense, man. This one personally, atakama zi, you know.
His first appearance, or perhaps his arraignment, as soon as Monday. Caitlin?
Evan.
So on what I would really like to see if they have the proof of him being part of a drug lord. I don't know, of him being a drug lord.
Do we know if he's gotten a mugshot, been fingerprinted? Has that already happened, or is that what will happen now that he's inside this facility?
We're told.
Na kama even the US itatuanzia, it will start if this is how they are going to start our year, then I don't know. I'm trying to imagine how the next Nini will be, right?
That some of that happened already at the DEA field office. That's one of the reasons why they brought him when he came in from the Air Force Base. They flew him to that heliport on the west side, which was the closest to the DEA field office, which is on the west side of Manhattan. And from there, they brought him back to the heliport and brought him to another helipad, which is at a park just right near this facility, again, right on the Brooklyn waterfront. I think you saw those extraordinary pictures of the helicopter going by with the view of the statue.
I want to see if they have his face.
Transferred him to a plane, and so it's been a series of different transports in the custody of the United States. So that process began several hours ago.
There's the guy.
Yeah, Evan Perez, obviously we're going to continue to stay with you as we are watching this play out. And for those who are
that guy is super tall.
just joining us, we are watching a remarkable scene play out live.
How is it? This is bullshit, man.
Before our very eyes here in New York City tonight, where Nicolás Maduro, the
I
man.
don't know, some people are going to Nini with me, but this is bullshit, man. I don't get me CLA.
Who ruled Venezuela for more than a dozen years, is now a prisoner of the U.S. government, as the almost 34 million people who lived under his reign are left wondering who is running their country. The president.
Man, how do you even do that? First of all, even before we do that, I needed to see. Okay, this why U.S. captured Maduro, attacked Venezuela. So I want us to why did they US plans? No, we want something. No, we don't want to see how they planned. yeah, we want to see the reason why Trump bombed Venezuela. Let's see.
The United States is officially waging war on Venezuela. Early on the...
Nope. There's a video I watched of someone explaining, and this is like 3 months ago. He was explaining why they decided to renew the country. So, like let's say USA conflict. Where did it start? Where I want to know where this shit started. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. Because is it really justified for someone to do that? What we know about the US? Is this ninja really justified to do that? Because I believe he's not justified. Me personally believe he's not justified to capture this guy or even to attack the country. So why US is why this
oil prices.
Done a month ago. So
Venezuela had a major problem. They had a massive oil field in its interior, but the oil had a thick, tar-like consistency that just wasn't economically viable. But then the price of crude suddenly went up and they started exporting this oil primarily to the United States.
So let's start again.
Venezuela had a major problem. They had a massive oil field in its interior, but the oil had a thick, tar-like consistency that just wasn't economically viable. But then the price of crude suddenly went up and they started exporting this oil primarily to the United States.
When I left, Venezuela was ready to collapse. We would have taken it over. We would have gotten all that oil.
So it's something that he had planned for. So it's something that they had already planned for.
Well, it would have been right next door. But now we're buying oil from Venezuela, so we're making a dictator very rich.
So how are you making a dictator very rich?
The United States happened to...
So like so many countries have dictators, right? Uganda has one. So many countries have dictators, even here in Africa and in the world. Why have you not gone for them? Why only because of... you see what he's talking about? He's talking about oil. So this thing, even it's not about him being like how do you call it? Being a drug lord. It's about the oil.
To have built much of its refining infrastructure around processing this type of heavy oil. These refineries are extremely expensive to build, but the problem was that domestically produced oil had become much lighter. Their solution was to import heavy oil, which today makes up over 2/3 of all oil imports. Without this, many of the largest US refineries would become much less competitive.
No me ha colocado como presidente el gobierno de los Estados Unidos.
So maybe you want to tell me that US were gonna this piece was done like 2 weeks ago, before all this happened. So this guy has been very firm with about him and the US. Like he doesn't want any jokes with the US, and he has always shown that kanini,
But it wasn't a match made in heaven.
Que no estoy subordinado a ningún gobierno extranjero imperialista.
Venezuela is one of the few countries that have this type of oil in abundance. But they messed up. They initially saw their economic output increase more than 5-fold, but then they so badly mismanaged their oil money that the entire system collapsed like a house of cards.
So there was a mismanagement. Everywhere that happens. Most countries have mismanaged their resources very badly. So at the end of the day, it still doesn't mean that you invade a country because now you think... It's because I believe Trump did this because and it's something that he wanted to do.
This is how Venezuela screwed up with hindsight.
Okay, if you get your time, mutaenda pale kwa hiyo nini ya hindsight and see about all this. The channel, you can even join, you can even you like their video, watch their video, you know. So he's explaining, he has done a in-depth research on why.
So in this video we're going to of course work towards that escalation with the United States, and we're going to place that into a broader strategic perspective. A big part of this story is oil, but there are other pieces of the puzzle that you must understand. It's crucial to understand the strategic interests from countries like Iran, China and Russia.
Okay. So, okay, interesting.
And we must look at the facts on the ground. There are nearly 30 million people who live in Venezuela, and another 9 million people have left the country. So we'll get to that perspective of the United States, but first we must understand some internal developments. And really quickly, I recently enabled memberships on this channel. If you want to support by the cost, choose to... In the 1920s, Venezuela had a small population and an economy built on agriculture, but that changed almost overnight. Researchers were searching for oil near this tidal lake, Lake Maracaibo, and one night they struck big. The Barroso 2 well blew out and discovered a massive oil field beneath. This was Venezuela's spectacular entry into the global oil age.
So Venezuela is a big nini of oil. Ah, interesting.
Oil didn't just become an industry, it became the foundation of the state. Production took off almost immediately, but in the 1940s, 50s and 60s there was an almost 1,000% increase. This led government budgets to soar.
That's the hey, okay. In about from when to when?
Production took off almost immediately, but in the 1940s, 50s and 60s there was an almost 1,000% increase. This led government budgets to soar, cities to expand, and Venezuela suddenly had more money than it knew how to spend. Let's fast forward to the 1970s, when the world changed.
It is an all-out war. The surprise attacks came early this morning by Syria and Egypt.
First, during the 1973 Arab-Israeli war, Arab oil exporters imposed an oil embargo, and later...
What is an oil embargo? What is an oil embargo? Let's see. ChatGPT, where is ChatGPT? So you're going to ask ChatGPT what is an oil embargo? Oil, have I spelled it right? Huh? I don't know if I've spelled it right. Let's see. So an oiler is when a country or a group of countries deliberately cuts off or restricts the sale of oil to another country to apply pressure. Simple idea, brutal impact. Now let's pressure test your understanding, because most people grasp this only in the surface level. What is it actually? Not a lazy. An oil embargo is economic warfare without bullets. Oil fuels, transport, electricity, food, industry, everything. Blocking it isn't symbolic. It's designed to hurt fast and force behavior change. Interesting. So, example, in 1970, Arabic oil embargo against the US and allies. Fuel. So if there was an oil embargo before, so why didn't the US take Nini to they are useless. US, they lack I don't know, they just like US they like
during the Iranian Revolution, which removed millions of barrels of oil per day from global markets. As a result of these political shocks, oil prices surged and became unstable. Venezuela now had to make a decision. They could increase their exports and make a lot of money quickly, or they could follow the Arab strategy. And they chose the latter. They lowered their production so that they could produce less while earning more per barrel. Venezuela's oil fields were maturing, and they had to think about the future. After the 1970s, oil prices continued to fluctuate, but they got lucky. They discovered a vast reserve of oil in Venezuela's mainland, but it was a very thick oil that was not yet commercially viable. This could have been a wake-up call for Venezuela. They had built their entire economy on oil, and these price fluctuations directly affected the government's budget.
So walipata reserves mbili. Crazy man. Some countries are lucky man.
An over-reliance on oil.
That's why at the end of the day, Waarabu ni wajanja. Waarabu, they used that and they have built their needs super fast and their countries are first world man. The Arabic, they have invested their money very well.
Oil makes other exports less competitive, and Venezuela was increasing their dependence on this one single resource. So how they managed their country is that whenever oil prices went down, they would just wait for them to go up again. And if this took too long, they would just print more money. And I'll get to that later.
Interesting. So how does printing more money help your country?
How they manage their country is that whenever oil...
Kenya, we did that to mess by. US did that, I think, during the recession? Or how do you call it? Your time a recession, if I'm not wrong. So
prices went down, they would just wait for them to go up again. And if this took too long, they would just print more money. And I'll get to that later.
El siglo que viene para nosotros es el siglo de la esperanza.
Introducing Hugo Chavez.
El problema es económico.
He came to power on the promise to lift millions of Venezuelans out of poverty, and he did expand education, healthcare, and food programs, but not by building a diversified economy. Instead, he poured the country's booming oil incomes into massive social spending, and he got lucky from the start. He came to power in 1999, and right thereafter, global oil prices rose to a record of nearly $100 per barrel.
Damn.
So, what did he do? Oil production, when he came to power, was already at a peak high, and he continued riding that wave. Billions of oil dollars went into social missions, subsidies, and public employment, and millions of Venezuelans saw their lives actually improve.
Arreglémoslo nosotros mismos.
So this ninja, this president changed the lives of... Okay, that's
Colombianos, venezolanos, ecuatorianos, sentados en paz y como hermanos que lo somos.
Chavez became immensely popular.
La razón de mayor peso de que Estados Unidos quiera poner aquí un gobierno subordinado a él.
Interesting. What is he saying here? He's saying, sitting in peace and the brothers, and as brothers that we are.
Como hermanos que lo somos.
Chavez became immensely popular.
La razón de mayor peso de que Estados Unidos quiera poner aquí un gobierno subordinado a él, al imperio.
So his story ilianza tu kitambo tu bado. It started a while ago.
Como lo tuvieron durante mucho
and as they had for a long time.
Tiempo es el petróleo venezolano.
The United States has a dark past in Latin America and meddled with many countries' governments. They were the imperialists, they were the aggressor, and supporters of Chavez saw him as the man who was finally standing up against this big imperial power from the
interesting.
North.
Quiere imponernos su modelo de explotación y de saqueo y su
I believe this is what Maduro, I don't know if it's Maduro, Maduro. This is what Maduro has been doing. Right? This is what Maduro has been doing, because I've seen his videos talking against the US government, and that's why I think they don't like him.
But the entire system worked because the price of oil was high. This specced the government's coffers, and this was invested in programs that had very quick results. But it only worsened the underlying problem, and that's when Maduro came to power.
Okay. So when the ninja came in, don't tell me that when he came into power, he made some...
Chosen by Hugo Chavez as his successor.
Chosen by Hugo Chavez.
Sir Nicolás Maduro has followed his mentor into power.
So Chavez is the one who Nini. So Chavez, the guy who was against the US, who built the Nini from oil and made the lives of Venezuelans improve. He recommended Maduro, and Maduro took over.
Nicolás Maduro was a close ally of Chavez. He served as his foreign minister and vice president. And
okay, that's how nations are squeezy.
In the early days, he was a bus driver. He was a man of the people who would continue the path of Chavez. But that's when oil prices fell. Hard. the price of a barrel of crude fell from $92 to $49 in a single year. And that's when we saw the mess that Venezuela had built.
The world hasn't seen such a drop in crude oil prices for a long time.
The tumbling oil prices had a catastrophic effect in Venezuela.
Maduro could have done the right thing in that moment. He had just come to power, and he could have admitted that his government had made mistakes, that the system was all corrupt, and that they now must make the painful decision to stop spending money and to diversify the economy. But
okay,
he did none of these things. I mentioned printing money earlier, and that was classic Venezuelan economic policy. Whenever the price of oil went down.
So when the price of oil went down, this ninja was supposed to okay, alikuwa anafaa kucheza kama right? I accept that's it may happen, right? But
and they needed,
don't tell me I'll print money. Don't tell me do that.
Cash. They would just print some more.
Why? You don't build a country by printing more money. It doesn't make sense.
Now, inflation in Venezuela is expected to reach
the more you print, more money.
1 million%.
And it looks like
more.
Now, inflation in Venezuela is expected to reach 1 million.
1 million% by the that's crazy. Inflation 1 million%. That's that one there. That one is exaggerated, right?
And it looks like the economic crisis there is about to get even worse.
Inflation became so extreme that money became worthless. While Chavez oversaw the extremely fast growth of the Venezuelan economy, Maduro oversaw how the entire system collapsed like a house of cards. There were shortages of food and medicine. Supermarket shelves were empty and corruption soared. But the strength of a democracy is that when those in power are majorly screwing up, they can be removed through elections.
Okay. Damn, that's crazy. So the ninja came in and decided to print money. Okay, now he that's how you even unaangusha inchi. And pia Kenya here the same thing was done. When I think when this ninja died, he has a dark past of him. This ninja, how do you call him? There's this ninja who died the other day in an accident, and Jirongo, right? Even him, he has ever when they were in the how do you call it? YK92, they used to print money, right? They used to print money, and at the end of the day, what?
In Venezuela's elections, the opposition is celebrating a landslide victory over the ruling Socialist Party.
After winning 99 of the 167 seats in parliamentary elections.
In 2015, the opposition won the parliamentary elections.
Yeah, if people see that umetuangusha sana, they'll vote you out.
In a landslide, getting a 2/3 supermajority. But Maduro wasn't letting go. He just created a parallel new assembly, after which tens of thousands of people took to the streets to protest.
Wow. So this guy, after making a mistake, printing money and the economy and collapsing the economy, right? Elections were held, right? Like when you see elections were held back in 2007 here in Kenya, right? So the ninja decided to refuse to kukataa kutoka kwa power kama Mwai Kibaki, and stayed there and created even a parallel which made the country go high.
Maduro repressed the unrest violently.
Anti-government protests continue in Venezuela.
Hundreds of people have been injured and more than 2,000 arrested.
In 2018, there were presidential elections, which were widely regarded as rigged. Maduro officially won, but it led to more mass protests in the streets.
Yo, that's crazy. So after he has done that, they had another election and still he rigged himself.
And Venezuela's outlook was...
I know this guy is a dictator. That one, I agree. He's a dictator. Yeah, he's a dictator. I think my past, how do you call it? My past saying that, but still, we have so many dictators. Why are they not invading those other countries? They want to invade this one.
Getting worse and worse. The country was so brutally mismanaged, there were such harrowing shortages, and the country was so corrupt and so unsafe that millions of Venezuelans felt forced to leave the country. In 2018, in a single year, nearly 1.4 million people left. This was by
1.4 million.
far the largest refugee outflow ever recorded in Latin America, and that's when something changed.
The government accepted its defeat against the dollar and has allowed it to emerge from the grassroots level.
Prices are all in US dollars.
The national currency had become completely worthless.
Crazy.
So people shifted to dollars. Most families could only survive through remittances or from money from abroad. And a black market was emerging that was now based on the US dollar. This helped the crisis to stabilize, but at an extremely low point.
So you're going to tell me a black market ninindo ilikuja ika salvage at least something? That's very crazy, man. So this guy...
Venezuela is in deep trouble. They have by far the lowest minimum wage in Latin America at just $3 per month.
What? $3 per month, that is... Yo! $3 per month. And kama sonne sotano. Yeah, that's crazy. Hey, Africa, is there a place like that? Like where there is such low minimum? I don't know, but that's crazy.
Which is cruel, because they still have the largest proven oil reserves of any country in the entire world. They have more oil than Russia and the United States combined. But their oil rigs are poorly maintained, and they struggle finding the right engineers. But they're still making big money off this resource, and it might be a rhetorical question, but...
Yeah, they're making big money because it's been in a black market way, like in the black market.
Where do you think these revenues are going? Well, Venezuela is also the third most corrupt country in the world.
Yo, the third most corrupt. So we have Sudan being the first, Somalia second, third most corrupt country in the world. Yeah.
After South Sudan and Somalia, Maduro and the people closest to him are enriching themselves. Senior military officers and political insiders are accused to facilitate the illegal drug trade.
So they are accused to facilitate
through their territory.
That's very interesting.
The large flow of migrants, the flow of illicit drugs, directly links the crisis in Venezuela to the United States. So let's get to the elephant in the room.
Yeah, let's get to that. So these ninjas, they are super corrupt to an extent, So how does that still justify them attacking the country, right, and arresting him? Like, why should they go? Because if in the world there are so many corrupt and so many, why did they go to Southern Sudan? Why didn't they go to Somalia? Because Sudan is the most corrupt, right, in the world, according to those statistics, right? And it being, let me see. Okay, according to global, let us see. Let us ask this ninja. Yes, let us ask this ninja. So according to the global ranking, which is the most corrupt country today? Let's see. According to the latest, so Sudan has been removed. Southern Sudan ranked 180th out of 180 countries with a score of 8. 0, highly corrupt, 100%. So, damn, man, that's crazy. So Southern Sudan is the most corrupt country in the world. So we have Somalia second, Venezuela third, Syria, Yemen, Libya, Eritrea, and Equatorial Guinea. Why are they not going to these countries? yeah, why are they invading Venezuela? It's because of the oil at the end of the day, but still I don't like this guy.
We're making a dictator very rich. Can you believe this? Nobody can believe it.
The United States has a complicated relationship with Venezuela.
It has a complicated.
Their oil is garbage. It's horrible. The worst you can get, tar. It's like tar.
So
if it's like that, why invade a country for that?
One of the narratives
that
I see a lot in the media, and that is just plain false, is that it was the United States that was responsible for this mess in Venezuela. After the 2015 elections, the US imposed sanctions, but this was still mostly symbolic. But after the rigged presidential elections, which led to violent crackdowns and massive refugee flows, US sanctions became much more severe. Half of Venezuela's exports are shipped to the United States, making it by far their biggest trade partner.
Interesting.
The thick, tar-like oil that Venezuela produces is mostly refined in the United States, which, due to sanctions, was now off limits. And Maduro needed these oil incomes to manage the growing unrest at home. The human toll was deepening. Blackouts.
So, each time Trump aliekaga sanctions. So ili mess Venezuela. So okay, iliwa mess in a way because okay. So in how I'm understanding is this. So this guy rigged the election, he got into power. People didn't like it. The economy got sabotaged, right? Because of his selfishness and of him being selfish, right? So people decided to create an outflow and immigrate to US. So US has this immigrants coming in, so many immigrants coming in, and it wants to control that, right? But Venezuela, since it doesn't want to stabilize its economy and all that, it's a corrupt government running it. So, and the US doesn't want to be culpable for its immigrants, its people coming from there. So it wants to control that. So they decided to sanction the country. So Maduro still wants the oil, since the oil I feel, nasikia nasema hapa ati oil is refined in the US and now mesanctioniwa. So that means there is no money flow coming in. So at the end of the day, what happened next?
Were common. Unofficial estimates put the number of daily blackouts at 200 to manage the growing unrest at home. The human toll was deepening. Blackouts were common. Unofficial estimates put the number of daily blackouts at 200. Hospitals only functioned because of volunteers, and ironically, there were massive shortages of
fuel. And you have this is inanionyesha tu kama Congo. What's happening in Congo?
To manage the country under the extra pressure from sanctions, Maduro started searching for other allies.
And it's funny that Congo iko kwa top corrupt nini.
Russian President Vladimir Putin, in a phone call with Venezuela's Nicolás Maduro, expressed solidarity with the Venezuelan people.
Beijing
now this is interesting.
Has been vocal in supporting the government of President Maduro.
Iran provided technical know-how for extracting and refining oil. China became Venezuela's key financial partner and provided funding. And Russia provided the Venezuelan army with weapons and intelligence.
This is super interesting.
These events led the US to look at Venezuela through a broader geopolitical lens.
Now, this one now makes me, kumbuka something. So, China, Iran, and Russia come in and help, right? And okay, they tried, they provide what they can provide for. So it's like they're setting up in Venezuela, which is next to the US, right? By giving them everything like defense and all that, Russia. So, and these US ninjas, they wanted to put NATO next to Russia, right? Around Russia. So I get now why this ninja from Russia didn't want NATO to come into Ukraine at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, how Russia is feeling, I believe that's how the US is feeling.
For whoever didn't pay attention in school, you must understand the Monroe Doctrine. In short, it warned European powers that any attempts to expand their political system in the Americas would be considered a hostile act against the United States.
Ooh. Interesting.
And this doctrine was further extended to justify military action in Latin America during the Cold War. And right now, what we're seeing in Venezuela is that this logic is resurfacing. Venezuela,
Interesting.
Cuba, and Nicaragua.
That's super interesting. Let's So
you must
Monroe Doctrine.
understand the Monroe Doctrine. In short, it warned European power.
The Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe was a U.S. foreign policy announced in 1823, and on paper it sounds noble. In reality, it's one of the most self-serving power moves in modern history. So, official President James Monroe told Europe. So this is told Europe, stay out of the Americas. No new European colonization, any interference. So why does NATO want to go into where Russia is then? The US in return promised not to meddle with European affairs. Sounds fair. It wasn't. The real purpose here is uncomfortable truth. The US didn't care about freedom in Latin. It cared about control. Interesting. At the time, the US was too weak militarily to enforce this alone. Britain Navy actually protected the policy because it benefited British trade. So the doctrine was basically Europe, don't touch the region. It's our future play. How it actually played out. Over time, the Monroe Doctrine morphed into US regime changes, economic domination, support for dictators who served US. Exactly. So, but you will find out that someone like Maduro, he is a dictator, right? He is a dictator, but he's not serving the US interest. And that's very interesting. The Roosevelt corollary 1904 made it worse by saying the US could intervene in Latin America countries to maintain order. Translation, gambled. So this is what this ninja used. This is what this ninja used. This one here. So this ninja used this, enforced this one. The Roosevelt corollary. Interesting. Why many countries hate it? In Latin America, the Monroe Doctrine is remembered not as protection, but as justification for US imperialism. Coups, occupation, exploitation of resources crushed them. It replaced European empires with the American ones. Does it still matter today? Officially, no. Practically, absolutely. Yeah, it does. It still does. Whenever the US reacts aggressively to China in Latin America, Russia in Venezuela or Cuba, you are seeing the ghost of bottom line, no sugarcoating. The Monroe Doctrine was strategic, not moral, protective for US, restrictive to others. As a foundation for American dominance in the Western Hemisphere, it was about freedom. It wasn't about. So this is crazy. So this guy, I think this guy alien for Sikitu. So that's why nothing can be done. That's why he can go into the Venezuela and do whatever he wants and get away with it. So anyway,
powers that any attempt to expand their political system in the Americas would be considered a hostile act against the United States. And this doctrine was further extended to justify military action in Latin America during the Cold War. And right now, what we're seeing in Venezuela is that this logic is resurfacing. Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua are the three remaining left-wing authoritarian governments in Latin America.
Oh, so it's a left wing.
We're still friendly with US adversaries. This
friendly with US adversaries. So
challenges US influence in the region, and in 2025, tensions flared up.
Cameras spotted 2 U.S. warships a few miles off the coast of Venezuela.
The Caribbean suddenly became one of the most militarized stretches of water in the Western Hemisphere. the United States began moving warships.
So me, I'm asking myself, will Russia, Iran, and China come in to rescue this ninja?
Surveillance aircrafts and Coast Guard vessels.
Because 2026 kama inaanza hivi noma.
Within weeks, a third of the entire US Navy.
The US lazima tu ikuwe on a spotlight or something. It bombed Nigeria. Now it has invaded Venezuela. So like how watu wanatakaje?
Was stationed here. In Puerto Rico and Curacao, they deployed extra troops. This looked less like a routine deployment and more like a preparation for a standoff.
The surging U.S. forces are stationed here on land and on ships in the Caribbean with their sights set on Venezuela.
Washington framed this buildup as a response to two main threats. The first is drug trafficking network.
Yeah, now that's where it started.
Which US officials claimed were using Venezuelan waters more aggressively than ever before. The second was the search of Tren de Aragua, a Venezuelan gang that the US had designated an enemy organization earlier that year. This framing was crucial. It allowed Washington to maintain the stance that the...
Like I hear there is this Antifa. I don't know, it's called Antifa. There is this nini that the FBI is saying that it is... I don't know, a terrorist in the US. I don't know, it's called Antifa if I'm not wrong. So one ninja was asked to verify and tell them, I don't know, but he couldn't. So like, it's very interesting.
US was not escalating towards an interstate conflict, but then they struck.
President Trump announced late today that the United States has sunk a boat after it left Venezuela carrying drugs.
On September 2nd,
yeah, I remember there was this
first boat was hit.
Every boat that we knock out, we save 25,000 American lives.
Everybody on board was killed. The US said that this happened in international waters, which Venezuela disputes. US boats were now increasingly patrolling just outside Venezuela's exclusive economic zone, and that's when it further escalated.
The Pentagon announcing another U.S. strike on an alleged drug trafficking boat decimated off the coast of Venezuela.
There was another strike off the coast of Venezuela and another further out at sea. The following months, there were almost...
That's a lot of boats, man.
24 of such incidents, and they were now also targeting boats in the Eastern Pacific. There were 22 incidents in total, which claimed 82 lives.
We knocked out 96% of the drugs coming in by water.
It has escalated into a political confrontation, but to what end? So there are two sides of this story. On one hand, Venezuela is saying that the United States is manufacturing a crisis to justify an intervention.
United States is manufacturing, it can because it has the funds for it. Because at the end of the day, we know that the US spends most of its money in war and all that, because they've budget yao kubwa inaendanga kwa military and nini expansion and all that. So it can,
which could be true. While on the other hand,
yeah, which could be true because they have the power to do so. Like they have the influence and the money to do so.
The Trump administration says that it's fighting criminal organizations that Maduro tolerated, which technically is also true.
So interesting.
But it looks
both sides are right.
A lot like what Russia did before.
So at the end of the day, Maduro is in bed with some terrorist nini and some drug nini, but
launching
is he really a drug?
A full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The difference, you may say, are the reasons that are now used to justify a potential intervention.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't make sense.
But that is subjective. Maduro is a bad guy who is responsible for a lot of suffering. But does this justify an invasion?
That's what I was asking. Does it justify the US going into Venezuela and capturing?
Would a US intervention lead to more stability, or
Nah, it won't lead to. I'm pretty sure it won't lead. It will make the country look like Haiti. I'm pretty sure it will look like Haiti. It will look like Haiti, or it will look like how Iraq was, Afghanistan. It will look the same. Like they will make sure that they destabilize that country and leave with the most oil they can.
Trump after something else. It's quite clear that Trump thinks in practical terms. What can he get out of it? And that is first and foremost oil. And he's been very clear about this. And then there's the broader geopolitical lens. The US wants to prevent Iran, Russia, or China to become too influential in Latin America.
Yeah, that can be another thing.
They want to get migration flows under control, as well as to trade in illicit drugs. These are all pieces of the puzzle that are considered, well, real lives of Venezuelan people hang in the balance.
Yeah, it's very sad that it's very sad, man.
If you want to see more videos like this,
yeah, it's very sad that that's what nilikuwa nasema, like how justifiable is it? How justified is it? That this guy can do this. It's not justified the guy can do this. So because there are other places which have the same type of people and even worse, but it doesn't mean you invade a country but kulingana na historia yao pia ukiangalia. Anyway, that one was one of the longest videos I've ever done, at the end of the day, but I had to do it. But still, I know we have not finished any of it. It was just a touch of what is happening, but that one is crazy, man. It seems now, since you just a country can just go into a country, and you see what Russia did in Ukraine, and you see what US now has done to Venezuela. It did that in Africa with Nigeria. It decided, okay, we can just go and bomb ISIS because they are killing Christians. That's bullshit, man. That's bullshit. You can't just do that. So anyway, Trump is a crazy guy. I don't know if he's going to. I believe this will be his last. If I'm not wrong. Yeah, this will be his last term. If I'm not wrong, yeah. Kulingana na the US elections, I don't know if they will. I don't know if he will leave the helm. I don't know, because this guy, kulingana na venye he talks, I don't believe he'll do that. But kulingana pia na how the US politics is, I don't think he can go to the extreme of not leaving the seat or retiring. Because it's interesting, unless maybe they change the constitution, which is interesting, which will be interesting to see. But anyway, let's see how this thing turns out to be. Anyway, this is the Real Edits, and I'm hyped to the DARDO. That is my name. Thank you for watching the other videos, and thank you for joining in. And those who have been watching the videos and not subscribing, man, subscribe so that we can continue making more videos as this, and also our videos can reach so many people. Anyway, this is super interesting to see, and all I can say, it's all about content.